is just sort of a way to get you there. So if um, degree is you want it hanging on the wall, and that's good, then that's great. But if you want a job, I don't think degrees and diplomas are going to get you there. Job will need specific skills. Okay, perfect. So I'll pause the questions. I can see Nakul has already joined in on the call, but I think he hasn't yet connected. Give me 1 second. Oh yeah, so hey Nakul, I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
hi. Yes, I can hear you. Am I
All
audible?
right. Yes, perfect.
I got a
Cool.
link
Awesome.
for Google Meet. I was waiting there.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I actually just removed the Google Meet link
Okay.
from the calendar invite like literally 10 minutes ago because I knew the accidental two links, one Zoom link, and this thing would cause confusion. So, not sure if you saw my update on the calendar or not, but good, no worries. Um,
Okay, cool.
Perfect. So,
Hmm.
I think we are good to start. Malal, are we good to kickstart?
Yes, we are good.
All right, perfect. So, welcome everyone. Today, as part of the Outscale 7-day masterclass, we'll have Nakul as well. Just a quick sort of an introduction. My name is Mayank. I'm the founder of Outscale. I've been in the game industry for 10 plus years now, worked across the board with a bunch of studios in India and US across the board. And for the last 2.5, 3 years now, we've been helping sort of developers get into the game industry, and help them sort of kind of get jobs and become professional developers. Today, I have Nakul with me. Nakul is the founder of PlayBae. He's a solo developer, indie developer, hardcore guy, and has launched his own title called In My Shadows. I think most of you actually would have seen some YouTube video of it, etc. At least for me, when Malhar from the team said we should invite Nakul as a guest speaker, I was like, okay, wait, who's Nakul? He was like, oh, the developer of In My Shadows. I was like, wait, what is this game? And then the moment he showed me the trailer, I was like, oh, I've seen this trailer. I just didn't recall the name of the game. And I knew the trailer from back in the day as well. So, it's so great to finally get to a chance to chat with Nakul as well. So, Nakul, welcome. And any opening words you want to share with the audience as well?
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. And I'm sorry it took me so long to come here because the solo dev journey is really hard and I've always been fully occupied with everything that's going on.
Yep.
And I'm very happy to see the love that I've got from the Indian community, especially from the students community.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that I could inspire students so that they can also make similar games.
Perfect. So you had sort of, CEO of big name titles, people who have raised crap ton of money to build game studios, etc. Senior lead developer slash a bunch of director level people before on the conversation. I think this is
Hmm.
the first time we're actually hosting somebody who's a solo indie developer who has actually had some success in terms of launching an actual indie title. So I think everybody has at some point or the other that as a dream. Today we'll get into the more sort of nitty gritty and learn from your experience as well. But I think first of all, I think there's a big amount of congratulations in order as well because Nakul just announced a couple of days ago, or I think yesterday only, on his LinkedIn channel, on his LinkedIn post that you guys got selected in the indie accelerator program that Google runs every year or every 6 months or something like that, right? So congrats, Nakul, and how did you guys get selected into that program, etc.? Why don't you just start with that and share us the overall experience there?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. It happens, I think, every year. I'm not sure
Mm,
if it happened every 6 months or not. Uh, but yeah, I have been keeping an eye out for this event since to 2019. I think I did not apply in 2019, but I applied in 2020. In 2020, this did not happen. A local version of it happened only for India, and there also PlayBae got selected, but because I did not have any team members, they had this particular requirement, so I could not
mm,
get into that. But I'm super happy that this time I got into it, and the process was relatively simple. You have to fill up a very big form and all
mhm,
that, but it's the same thing. Like they are also very happy with the product in my shadow, and they really would want to have games like this being made on Google Play. So I think it was a good fit for them.
Perfect, perfect. So let's start with a little bit of the basics. What kind of got you motivated, and how did you get started with indie? When did you sort of think that,
Hmm.
okay, I can do this as a solo developer, right?
Hmm. Like you said, everyone has this dream, right? Having this own solo dev, or if not solo dev, like an indie dev
Hmm.
dream. Every kind of hardcore game developer has that dream, and it's not very easy to pursue that dream. It's just like some kind of coincidental events that make that kind of lead you to that path. So in my case, obviously, I always wanted to make games, but I never considered being a full-time indie,
Hmm.
and I started making games in 2013 in my college days, and after that I got a placement from my college for some other field, like not gaming but as a data analyst.
Hmm.
Uh, but I still wanted to try game development once professionally, so I quit that job after like 5 to 6 months and I got into gaming. And then I realized, yeah, this is like very natural for me and I should be here. So what motivated me exactly was like to keep making games was when I played the game Limbo. And
Hmm.
so Limbo was probably my first indie game that I bought. And I
Same.
knew
Exactly the fucking same. It was the
the
first
same thing.
purchase I made on Steam. The first freaking purchase I made on Steam when I actually got my first salary.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, you have been there since the last 10 years, so
Yep,
you
yep.
you are a very old player. I played it on mobile,
Yeah,
and
that time no mobile didn't even exist,
yeah,
right? Like the
exactly.
first Android phone had just came out, and this is like I
Uh,
think 2009 or something. I forgot when, but yeah.
I
So
think it must have been around 2010 because I think that is when it came
correct,
out. So
correct,
I
correct.
played it in 2014 or 15, I think. I don't remember. So
Hmm,
it's been a
hmm.
while, yeah. So,
Awesome. Yeah. No, I think it's all like these kind of classic
hmm,
offbeat kind of games are the ones that really motivate and inspire
hmm,
a lot of the indies, right? Because there's a lot of creative thought process that goes behind it, right? So,
hmm,
you mentioned right something interesting here that while your job placement was in something like data analyst, right?
hmm,
But you still kind of figured out that okay, no, 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 fuck it, I want to
hmm,
jump into this thing full time. I made that
yeah,
leap from a proper software developer role and
hmm,
went back into being a student again and becoming a game developer again, and starting
hmm.
from an intern. Uh,
Oh,
so,
wow.
so generally speaking, right, like like how did you fight that social inertia that usually comes with key, beta, there is a stable job, don't quit it, etc., etc.,
Hmm.
right? So, was there too much pushback that you had to go with?
I think you might be the better person to answer that because you most probably had more social inertia. Because your path is even more kind of drastic, like from a software engineer to an intern. Mine was still a little safer because I was going from a fresher data analyst to a fresher game developer.
Hmm.
So there was just a small difference in salary and a very huge difference in brand, but it was still relatively safer. So like obviously I not a lot of social inertia. Obviously, I got a lot of support from my parents, and since it was not a risky decision at that time.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, the thing is that you don't always have to take risks. You can like still take a safe decision and make your parents or anyone in the society, make them assured that okay, the choice you have made is good. uh, so for that you have to study, you have to prepare, and you have to have a plan. You can't just say that okay, I like gaming, so that's why I'm just going to switch to a very
Yeah.
inferior company. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think
yeah.
majority people, the first thing that you ask them, right? Like, hey, why do you want to become a game developer? Because I love gaming. It's like not good enough,
Yeah,
right? Not good enough. There's a lot
you have
of
to have some kind of skill and some kind of thing, something that can back your interest. So
correct.
I was making games in my college time, and like even
Hmm.
before my college completed, I did have a proper fully published game on Play Store. So that kind of that experience taught me a lot, and
Hmm.
so it was very kind of straightforward and easy for me to get into game development as a professional game developer, because not a lot of freshers have this experience of having their own game on a Play Store on the Play Store.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if
Perfect.
you can back your interest with some skill or some tangible thing, then it's relatively less
Hmm.
riskier.
Yeah, true, true. Guys, as I cover questions with Nakul, just feel free to just put in more questions in the chat and I'll curate them from the
Hmm.
conversation there as well. Somebody mentioned that Mrinal is saying we got Limbo for free on the Epic Store.
Hmm.
I think the new
Hmm.
shit, right? Like earlier I was buying it for 500 bucks. You probably bought it for like 150 bucks on the Play Store or 200
I
bucks,
think it's about 250 or 350, something like that. I think
something like that, right?
it's still the same price.
Correct. So and then Epic comes in and just like, all right, take these games for free.
Hmm.
So yeah, okay, awesome. So mm, I think there's one very common parallel between you and me as well, that you decided to continue your journey as for a large part of the time as a solo developer, right? And you might have worked with a bunch of freelancers for either art or sound or things like that, right? But still, the primary responsibility to make or break or the success of the entire project kind of lies on your shoulders, right? It's very similar to being a solo founder as well, right? Like a lot of people have told me, yeah, solo founding is very hard. Get a co-founder. I was like, yeah, I know. Don't tell me. I am living through it, right? You don't need to tell me about it. So how do you sort of cope up with, the because it's a for folks who might not realize being solo on any project that's monumental and impactful has a very it takes a lot of emotional toll, right? It has a lot of ups and downs, right? So how do you sort of try and keep up and keep the mental levels, modulated?
Yeah. So, obviously, like, tell me about it. Like, solo journey, solo founder, anything is very difficult, incredibly difficult. You can take help from hundreds of people, but still, all the burden and all the load will be on your shoulders.
Hmm.
So, it's hard to manage all that. And the hardest thing is that you can't just make a game. You have to manage people. You have to manage the assets and the timeline. So you have to play multiple roles. So
Yep.
it is really hard to balance things. And I would say I managed to make it work somehow, but I wouldn't say I'm very good at it because it does not come natural to me. Like, development and creation, like, that comes naturally
Hmm.
to me, and planning also comes naturally to me. But managing people, managing all the talent that we have, that's really hard. So it's really difficult to balance everything, but you just have to have that, like, proper plan and timeline in your some kind of software tool or in your notebook or
Hmm.
anything, and stick to it. No matter what, just stick to it. Obviously
Hmm.
there will be delays, and there will be a lot of delays. Like, and no matter how much you take your buffer time, the time will still, you will feel that it's less time. So take a lot of like, plan very judiciously, and take a lot of factors into account. And that's how you can, if you have some kind of a goal in your head and goal that you can see, then it's a bit simpler to stick to it. Otherwise it can get overwhelming very soon. Like, I have been overwhelmed throughout the journey, and with every milestone it keeps getting a little more clear that, okay, now next milestone I'm going to do this correctly. So it's still a
Yep.
very big learning process for me, that I'm sure I'm still gonna make a lot of mistakes now, and just gonna learn from them and hopefully incorporate them in the next project.
Got it. So I promise this is my last question, and then I'll take the audience question. Uh, so for In My Shadow, what was the sort of the thesis behind? Like, did you always knew from the get go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna launch a game on the Steam store and direct it towards this specific target audience, etc. Or did you start with just a random prototype or a concept in mind, and then the marketing and the other pieces kind of evolved around it, and the strategy for which audience you're going to go after? What was the kind of the ideation process, and how did it evolve over the course of the development cycle?
Yeah, it was exactly the latter one that you just said, that no plan as such, just a random prototype, and you play around with it, you show it to people, people like it. And the major breakthrough for me was when I had this prototype. I was just making it in my office, like office hours, and
Mm,
in my, like, after office hours. So the major breakthrough was when I participated in the IGDC thing, IGDC 2018.
mm,
Uh, so Deepak Gurujala, who is the founder of Street Lamp Games, that's also an Indian indie
yep.
game company. They have pretty cool games. So I just talked to him before this, just randomly, like, as a fan, and he suggested me that, why don't you come into this thing, IGDC?
Mm,
And I never had an idea about that, and I never had any plans of that. And I thought, okay, let's just try this out. And I did try it out, and to my surprise, it got into the final 5 or final 8. I don't know. So that was when I started. I just thought, okay, let's just give it a shot. And I went to it, and to my extreme surprise and delight, it won everything. Like it won the final thing, and as the most the best upcoming game of the year. And
Hmm.
so after that, the all the pieces started to fit in. That what do you want to do? Do you want to make a full game? You
Hmm.
want to make a mobile game? Do you want to go with a publisher? Obviously, this is not the ideal way. The ideal way is that
Yeah.
you have everything in your mind. You know what
Yeah.
target audience you want, what platform do you want a publisher or not. I just went by the fields, and whatever just kept coming along, I just kept responding to it and adapting to it. That's why this game took a very long time. Like if it was just a hobby project or just
Yeah.
a company based project, right? Even like some professional thing, this game would have been completed in 1.5 year or maximum 2 years.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
this took me around 3 years, like the entire process, because there was a lot of change. There were a lot of changes. Prototype, then the demo, then you scrap everything off, then you get a publisher, then PC, then mobile, then consoles. So it
Hmm.
is a very very long journey.
Got it. Yeah. I think it's always the case, right? Like hindsight 2020, right? So hard to predict these kind of things.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. So, okay, I'll take some questions up as well. Anand is
Yeah.
asking, how many game projects are you actually working on at any given time?
Just one. Like that's gonna be. In fact, that is one of my motto of the company. Like one memorable game at a time. No matter what, I'm not gonna work on two
Hmm.
games. Like even what happened when I was starting this game, when I left my job, then obviously there was a very very small pressure in your own head, like not from the society, from your own head, that you don't have any salary right now. So what are you gonna do? uh, Even though I did have a plan that okay, let's just put 1 year, I have enough savings, but still, we have this mindset that there should be some source of income, right? So
Correct.
I thought that why shouldn't I try freelancing on this Upwork or anything?
Hmm.
But it just did not click to me. I just did not want to do it. I never felt like doing it. So I just made up my mind that I'm not never gonna make more than one project at a time, no matter what.
Got it. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty spot on. And regarding the point on Upwork, I actually, for the first 3 years when I was trying to do indie dev between 2016 and 19, I started two indie studios. Well, one indie studio and one proper game studio doing kind of a gamification product at the intersection of game and finances, trying to do something as Upwork freelance thing. Suddenly that takes up so much time, even if you have like a project, that it kind of takes away all the focus of why the hell you do start doing this in the first place, right? And suddenly your passion project becomes the secondary thing, and this Upwork project becomes your primary thing because now you have deadlines to deliver, and if you don't end up meeting it, then you're not gonna get paid, etc. Anyways, so it's like that Hindi saying, right? Like "Dhobi ka kutta na ghar ka na ghat ka," which means you're not neither in this bucket nor in that bucket. So you end up kind of becoming that. I don't know if you had that experience. I've had that experience multiple times, so that's why I could relate to it.
I did not even try. I just checked out the projects that were coming, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna try that. And I
Good.
felt that like it's the worst of both worlds, like worst of
Exactly. Exactly.
security and the creativity freedom, not the
Yeah. Yeah.
best.
Yeah. Instead, go and do a job for 5 days, and at
Yeah,
least you get
exactly.
Saturday and Sunday to do your game
Yeah,
dev hobby thing.
I would definitely prefer a job over freelancing. I don't know how people do freelancing, but a job feels much. And even like after spending 3 years working, not 2.5 years working like this, so I feel that jobs are really easy compared
Mhm.
to freelance life or solo life. Jobs are like child's play.
Yeah.
Now I consider
I
that
wish
okay. Yeah.
I wish I had my entire team on this call. Yeah, jobs are easy. Like they'll start complaining, oh man, this, man, that.
Yeah, you won't know until you just start up your own thing. Then you'll realize what is the hardest thing.
Yeah, exactly. And there goes Manar in the chat. Okay. So somebody had asked regarding sort of learning new programming language, or just we can broaden the context, right? So as you're thinking about building new projects, if you have to learn something new, right? Like not just from a programming language, but an engine or a framework, or could be anything, right? So if you broaden up the context of the question, how do you sort of approach learning as well as building something at the same time? How do you sort of go about balancing that?
Hmm. So obviously, preferably you don't have to switch technologies. Like Obviously you have to learn new modules and sometimes new kind of frameworks as well. But hopefully you don't have to do it. Stick to your strength. Don't
Hmm.
spend a lot of time on learning new things. But obviously you have to be good at one thing first, right? So suppose, like, let's take an example of Unity. So if you have to make your next game and you know Unity, and you know that it can be done on both, on Unity and Unreal both, then
Hmm.
obviously stick to Unity. Like, don't just go by the trend that okay, more and more games are being made on Unreal, so I'm going to switch to Unreal. uh,
Yep.
but sometimes obviously you can get the situation that only Unreal would be the best choice for it, and Unity would not be a very good choice for it. Then in that case, your skill should back it up, because logically everything is the same. Languages are just a tool, and even
Yep.
the tools are just tools, right? The logic is the main thing. What logic you're using in Unity, that's the same logic in that you're going to use in Unreal, but just that you'll have to spend some more time.
Hmm.
And so the best case would be that you have someone experienced with you, who knows about these things, so that you can just quickly bounce off of them and understand and like get onto that track
Hmm.
as soon as possible.
Yep. And I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like a mathematical equation, right? So you can always say that, okay, I'm going to take 2 months learning Unreal, and then it's going to take me 6 months to build this, right? Versus because I'm already, say, 8 on 10 in Unity, it will
Hmm.
take me 4 months to get the entire thing done, right?
Yeah,
For
exactly.
example. So now you have a very clear mathematical window of saying that, hey, do you want to spend 8 months versus 4 months and eventually get to a roughly the same outcome, right?
Hmm.
Assuming that your skills are equally good, then you
Hmm.
will get to the same game product at the end of it. Then do you want to invest 8 months? Do you have the money or the savings or the resources to invest 8 months? Or do you want to do it in 4 months and quickly get it out, right? So having that
Yeah.
clear mathematical calculation in mind, even though high level, very approximate, but it
Hmm.
gives you a very concise answer as to, like Nakul was saying, right? Like stick with your skills, right? Like if you have already acquired skills, you should double down on those skills rather than just going, oh, I'm going to spend 1 month on Unity, 1 month on Unreal, 1 month
Yeah.
on C++, blah, 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 right? Like
Yeah.
at the
Like,
end
try
of
to
the
become
day,
the master of what you already know.
exactly. And at the end of the day, remember this, like customers don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah, they
They
don't.
don't
They
give
don't
a
even
fuck
know.
whether you
Yeah.
made is, yeah, whether you made it
Yeah.
with Unity or Unreal. If they love it, they love it. If they hate it, they hate it. They'll tell you, right?
Yeah, but this question might be also relevant to people who are just like beginners, right? So in
Mm-hmm.
that case, you should try out new things just to see
Oh yeah.
which one appeals to you more.
Yep. No, I think the original question was specifically because of the context of
Indie
building a
dev.
product and
Yeah.
then
Okay.
launching it and while learning. So I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
way our previous answer was pretty much spot
Hmm.
on. But good thing you
Yeah.
added that as a caveat towards the end.
Hmm. Yeah. Like
Um,
when you're a beginner, don't stick to what you know. Then try to experiment more.
More or less, you don't know much, so
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
okay. Cool, awesome. So I think somebody had asked earlier in the chat. I missed this question. Like, how do you? Because if you don't have much resources or something, how do you sort of think about um, um, getting your games to showcase in conferences, major league conferences, etc.? How do you end up sort of presenting on those stages if you don't have much resources or funding or publishing connections, etc., right? So especially if you're just, let's say, starting out as an indie developer, right?
Uh, I would say that it is actually much easier than it seems, right? Uh, in my starting of my journeys till 2019 October November, I was completely bootstrapped and no funding or no publisher, no contacts at all. And it was very easy to just apply into events, have a prototype of your game and apply into events. So I got into 4 or 5 international events just by applying. Obviously many events have fees that you have to, entrance fee and all that, and many international events will obviously be expensive because you have to travel to that place. So that's kind of an investment that you have to like assess and judge on the basis of whether you want to, whether would it be that beneficial or not.
Hmm.
But it's relatively simple to just apply and showcase. If your game is good enough, your game will get to the top. Like, it's resources come when you have to kind of promote it or advertise it, or just increase the quality of it or add more features to it. That's where resources come. Showcasing, thankfully for indies, is in most of the events is free, or it's very cheap, very affordable.
Got it. Yeah. Um, but normally, just a slight bit of extension, and I'm adding my question here on top. Like, what was your experience sort of trying to market the game? Did you need a lot of resources? Did you rely heavily on sort of a lot of organic word of mouth? What was the strategy behind thinking around, okay, now the game is out, I want as many people to buy it, etc., etc., right? Right. So what was your thought process and strategy that ended up working, or if something failed massively as well, do share.
Uh, I did have a lot of plans, but we failed at that because of the fact that everything got delayed in the end. Like
Hmm.
ideally, near the launch, you should have a lot of time for yourself to do all the organic marketing and talk to people,
Hmm.
approach press, and approach reviewers and all that. So you should have a lot of time, and you should have a lot of good marketing assets like trailers and all these social media assets and all that. So this is where I think it kind of fell short for In My Shadow in the end, because the last 1 or 2 months were really rushed, and that that kind of our trailer suffered because of that. Like at the launch time, we did not have a trailer, and some of the features were missing in the launch build. But the actually the focus was that, like, for this game, mobile is the primary platform. Like
Hmm.
PC was more of a like first shot, then let's just do it and let's just put it out to the public and see what comes out. And all
Hmm.
the feedback, all the positive and the negative feedback that we've got from the PC build, made sure to spend a lot of time fixing those. And the mobile build should be much better than the PC build.
Got it. Okay. But did you think about sort of adding more resources to the project as you started to
Hmm.
see the financial viability of the project also taking up, that,
Hmm.
hey, we could get this done faster. Why not hire at least
Yeah.
somebody junior to tag with you, and you still take the lead role, but then you can get things done much quicker, because at least now you have a clarity of thought that, okay, yes, we are launching. We've already launched on one platform. Now we can target even multiple platforms and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the one good thing with this project is that we have a publisher, right? So the
Hmm.
publisher has the resources for porting and localization, and although all those major things, right? But all the organic things and even the development part, I had to take care of all on my own. So that is where I would, like, if I had to change something, I would have spent more time building a team instead of just hiring freelancers, because
Hmm.
having a very stable and very reliable team is much better, because it'll obviously in the beginning you will have to spend a lot of time and money to get them
Hmm.
on board and all that, but in the longer run it kind of saves time. So that's where I think I should have spent resources on building that right team and delegating more tasks to people who would have done a better job, who would have had done a better job at it as compared to myself, because I was obviously occupied with a lot of factors, a lot
Yeah.
of aspects.
True. So somebody asked this, and I think it's a pretty relevant question as well. As you've sort of finished one project now, right, and you've
Hmm.
seen that entire sort of life cycle play out. Sure, there might be localization and porting that's already going on, right?
Hmm.
And you might be launching in new regions, etc., etc. But you've now gone full circle, right? And now, if you start thinking about a new project, right, like what do you think are the advantages this time that you would have, and how would you sort of go about doing things differently?
Oh yeah, like now I know a lot more. Like uh, there have been tons of learnings, and I will change almost everything that I had done initially. Resource management, team management, timeline management, and specific targeting of the market, and having a clear plan of marketing from the first day. Like,
Hmm.
when would you want to publish it? Where would you want to publish it? What kind of marketing strategy would work for a game like this, what has been working for games like these. And so like spending more time on researching and planning and team building is the kind of the major learning that I've done.
Got it. But like, do you think, would that mean that PlayBae would no longer be a single man studio and transform into a full-fledged indie team, maybe 4 people, 5 people, something like that, in some
I
short
am
time?
not really sure. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that might be the case because like being a solo founder and solo developer is really stressful,
Hmm.
and there comes a time where you just have to just like survive. That you have to just make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
The creative process is gone. Now it's just like just have to do it, and the product also suffers because of that. So I would definitely would want a good partner, the partner who would. The problem with me is that I can do a lot of things myself and I can do good job at that, at all those things. So it's really hard to find someone who is as passionate and as skilled as I am, obviously. Then obviously there are a lot of people, but you have to look for them, right?
Correct.
And so if I find someone who is like somewhere around that same passion and skill level and also that mindset, and even better if he or she completes the imperfection that I have, like
Yeah.
in the things that I don't like to do, and that is their strength. So then obviously I won't be restricting myself to just being a one person team. But at for now I don't have a target like let's build a team of 5 or 10. I
Got
just
it.
know that let's see how the mobile game does, and then let's plan accordingly which kind, what scale of project would I want. Maybe the next project would be even smaller in terms of scale, and then it wouldn't make sense to expand.
Yeah, I think my just I'll just share my 2 cents here as
Mm.
because for the first 3 years I struggled to find a co-founder as well, and exactly the same problem, right? Like you need to, if you are multi-talented, having strong background in tech, um, product, game dev, understanding the gaming marketplace, business, etc. Right? It was hard for me to find a co-founder as well, right? And then eventually, what ended up happening, the realization I had after 3 years of failed attempts of finding a co-founder as trying to build Outscale was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna do it, right? And instead, I'm gonna find people who, the last thing that you mentioned, complete the inconsistencies or the skills that I lack, right? So the first person that I started to look for was somebody that comes from strong operational background because I had zero fuck experience in operations, right? But building Outscale for the last 3 years, I learned a lot of operations, and from there I was able to find somebody senior to come in and now take ownership, and like you mentioned earlier, right, like do that thing but do it much better than I would be able to because I'm already doing 20 other things as well, right? So rather than trying to find a perfect co-founder to marry, you find functional leaders who can take ownership of that functional and do that thing really well, right, as you're trying to grow as a team, right? So I think my thought process has evolved into maybe you are also on the same journey, so I thought I'll share my 2 cents there as well. Nakul, I'm not able to hear you. I think the voice got cut out. No.
Fine now.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I don't know. Yeah, I completely resonate with what you're saying, and you have at least spent 3 years finding co-founder, right? I haven't really spent a lot of time. I was just waiting for someone to find me. So I
Yeah.
will probably spend some time finding, but
Right.
I think that most likely it will be the same path as yours. Like find people who are better at those things than you already are,
Yeah.
and
Perfect.
it
So I think
definitely will help if you already know things. Then it will
hmm,
help you find better people
correct.
instead
Yeah.
of like average people.
Yep. I think so. So one last question, and
Hmm.
just to be respectful of your time, then we'll wrap it up
Yeah,
as well.
sure.
Somebody asked this that if you're stuck on a technical problem when you're working on a game project, right? Especially because you're solo, you don't have too many people to bounce off ideas, etc. with. So how do
Hmm.
you sort of feel? What's your creative process or thought process to get yourself unblocked and not get stuck on something way too long?
Oh yeah, like that's a very painful question because I go through that a lot. There are a lot of times when I just get stuck and I wish that, oh shit, I hope, I wish that someone senior to me was there in my team where I could just ask. Uh, but unfortunately, the hard answer is that you have to do it yourself, no
Hmm.
matter what. Since you don't have anyone to bounce ideas off. Even I don't have anyone. I have friends. I have a lot of game dev connections, but it's very difficult to talk to them about one specific thing because it's very
Hmm.
like it's very contextual, right? uh, and you can't just explain everything to them, and then they'll need time to understand it first and then they'll be able to help. So the best is that, like, obviously if you are going solo, you have to be strong at something, very strong at something,
Hmm.
very good at something. Like I was very good at all, like programming things, not core programming, but I was good at game development things. Like I just knew my way to solve problems, solve game development problems. So no matter what you do, even if I don't know anything, I'll just look it up on the internet, and
Hmm.
probably not in the first go, but keep trying, I will find it somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't give up. And but it will definitely help if you have some connections who are very close to you and who are much better than you, that you can like keep in touch with from the very starting.
Hmm.
And that way you don't have to like provide a lot of context every time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if you've seen the concept of mentors work in the game industry. I personally haven't. There's a
Hmm.
very strong mentor relationship in the tech ecosystem, right? Like I
Hmm.
right now I have two, three mentors that I look up to because I know I am a solo founder. If I
Hmm.
start thinking about a problem within Outscale, right, I might literally bang my head on the wall for the next
Hmm.
1 week and I might not get anywhere, right? So for my thing is like I quickly reach out to those mentors and say, these are also ex-founders who are probably 5 steps ahead of me, right? And they've
Hmm.
gone through that journey. So they know they might not be able to give exact technical details, but they'll generally
Hmm.
be able to give good sort of guidelines to think on and think around and okay, why are you even thinking like this? Like this is absolutely the wrong way to think. Think
Yeah.
like this, right? They might pose a different question that might change the perspective, right? This is one thing I feel like is in my experience 100% missing in the gaming ecosystem. The
Hmm.
people haven't yet really latched onto this concept of a mentor-mentee relationship,
Hmm.
whether it's from a solo dev, indie dev, professional developer perspective, could be multiple, right? Like, but I
Hmm.
feel like that could unlock a lot of potential within people, both from creative, technical perspective as well. I'm not sure if you've experienced anything, something like this or not.
No, I have had mentors. Like, I have a lot of connections. The good thing about the indie game scene in India is like it's very small,
It's
right?
very small.
So
Yes.
like, if you participate in events and if you participate in competitions and even the meetups, right? You will know everyone. So
Mhm.
and most of them are like they started just like us, like as solo
Yeah.
developers, just starting out with their own random prototype. So in that way, throughout this journey, I have had help from a lot of mentors like Deepak, Chirag, uh,
Mm.
developer of Raji,
Yeah.
Avichal, you know that, right?
Yep.
Uh, so I do reach out to them a lot about things like when should I promote it, what should I do at this time of the sale,
Mm.
or have any idea of how to do this and that. But in like it depends, right? If you want answers on the larger scale, then you will get mentors and like ex founders and current founders of other companies, right? But for technical thing, it's very difficult to find a mentor because like I said, like it needs a lot of context and
Mm.
a lot of really close understanding so that even they are able to spend that time with you to make
Yeah.
sure to debug that problem. So I think technical mentors should be a thing. I have no idea if it is a thing or not,
It
but
should be.
it should be. But the mentors are up to you. Like you have to talk to people. This is where even I'm good at, but I'm not really good at. Like I could get better at this. Like I've talked to all the Indian people and even some international people, but I know that other people they even reach out to a lot other developers, and then they get more and more like wider perspective of things instead of
Mm.
just like talking to the people that you only know that you already know, right? So I already knew Chirag and Deepak and Avichal. That's why I talked to them, right? But
Mm. Mm.
other game developers and especially international in the international community, they talk to random game developers if they have a problem, and people are really helpful. Even I've done
Yep.
that once or twice. That's it. But
Mm.
you can do that more often than what I did, and that's where I think you will really notice a difference. It's all up to you. Like don't depend on probably the community to help you. You will have to find help, and you will easily get help if you have that intention.
Yep, yep. No, I 100% agree. I think people underestimate the power of
Yeah,
networking and just reaching out for help, right? A lot of
yeah,
people are
exactly.
actually willing to help as long as they know that their help is needed, right? They're not
Hmm.
magically gonna know, right? So same for you as well, right? Like
Yeah,
people, your ideal co-founder might exist out there, right? Like
uh,
the, but just you'll have to
you will
figure
have
out
to
how
find
to
it.
reach
Yeah,
out. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Perfect. So I know we overstretched by a little bit, so my
That's
apologies
fine.
there, but again, thanks again, Nakul, for showing up and spending and sharing your thoughts with the audience.
Yeah,
Good luck for
sure.
the Google Play the India Accelerator. I think it's
Mm.
hosted in Singapore, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
but it's
Yeah,
it's a virtual event, so
this time it's
does not
virtual.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
remember applied to the very first one in 2018 when I didn't even have a product. I didn't even have a company
Oh.
registered. So they kicked me out like really hard.
Yeah, this thing
Didn't get
like going
selected.
to Singapore would have been really cool. Well, that is a very
Yes.
cool event, 5 day
Yeah.
event. This
Correct.
thing is
Correct.
stretched for 12 weeks, so
Oh, okay. They changed
it's
it
gonna be long.
drastically. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the format is completely changed now. It's
Mhm.
actually more beneficial for learning,
Yeah.
but obviously the physical link is missing.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I'm sure that'll come back
Mm.
in some time as well. So cool.
But
All
yeah,
right.
sure.
Awesome.
I hope I was able to help and inspire the students.
Yep.
Like they
Absolutely.
can
Absolutely.
they like obviously people do reach out to me sometimes for on probably on my Discord or on my mail, and
Mhm.
I try to help them as much as I can, like as much as in my limits and whatever knowledge that I have. So if any one of these students they want help on starting their indie journey,
Yep.
you guys like not just me, you can reach out to anyone, and people are
Perfect.
mostly willing to help.
Perfect. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So most likely what I'll do is I'll just share your Discord link or something within our Discord
Hmm.
channel as well. And then I'll ask
Yeah,
the audience, whoever is interested, to get in touch with you to reach out to you over Discord as
yeah,
well. So, but guys, don't spam. All right. Be respectful. Right. Awesome.
yeah.
Thanks again,
Okay, sure.
Nakul, and wish you all the best for the next project as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for
All right.
having me.
Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
All right. Awesome. Good. So hopefully